Steve, this is a podcast about Metallica.
The first Metallica.
The first Metallica. The first Metallica. So what about Metallica do you want to talk about?
There's a lot of different things we can talk about with Metallica. We can talk about what it was like to see Metallica for the first time live. We could talk about what it was like the first time the first time we were introduced to Metallica, what album we listened to for the first time. We can talk about
well, just pick one, because we can have a whole podcast just about what we're going to talk about.
Yeah.
How about
the first time that you heard Metallica? What was your experience?
I'll tell you exactly what it was, because I remember. Well, I remember seeing, as a kid in junior high, the Master of Puppets back patches, seeing Metallica advertised. But the first time I ever saw Metallica was a clip from the Grammys in 1989. And it was them doing One, but it was just a clip on the news, and it was just, the darkness imprisoning me, all that I see, just that. And I was like, what the fuck? It was Hetfield, and going, da-da-da-da-da. I was like, what the hell is this? This is fucking incredible. And then I bought, the Justice album. It was probably the first CD I ever bought in 1989 after I saw that clip from the Grammys. And before that, unbeknownst to me, the first time I really heard Metallica and didn't know it was in I'm the Man by Anthrax, because they used the master sample.
Right.
So yeah, that was the first time I heard them. What about you?
Yeah, the first time I heard them was in 7th grade.
So that's 1989?
Is that right?
Yeah, maybe. 88, 89?
Yeah, so I think Justice had just come out, and a bunch of our friends were passing around the tape. And I think I heard it over at one of our mutual friends, Chris.
Yeah.
And I heard One. That's what we were playing, and I was just amazed, like the sound of it. It was just so raw sounding, like that Justice album, so dry. And now people look at it and are like, it's shitty, but I still love it. I love that sound of it, even though the bass is drowned out. But something about like the way that the guitar sounded, and the drums.
It's that clicky.
Yeah, it's very clicky, very dry, and I just wore that tape out.
Yeah.
I remember when I bought the tape, just like opening it. It was long. I remember it being a really long sleeve, like a booklet inside.
Yeah.
And they had all these pictures of them with sunglasses on.
Yeah.
And just everything about it, reading the lyrics and all the artwork, like what was his name? Pushead?
Pushead, yeah.
Pushead did all the artwork. I thought it was awesome.
Was the Justice cover a Pushead drawing? I know he did like Short as Straw, he did the shirts. I don't think he did the cover.
I don't know what the cover was.
Yeah.
But like in the booklet there were a bunch of Pushead.
In Vertigo you will be.
Yeah, and I just wore that tape out. And then I went backwards from there. Then I was interested, and I remember remember Dan?
Yes.
He made me a tape of Master of Puppets.
Yeah.
And then I wore that tape out of Master of Puppets, and then I'm sure every kid growing up in the late 80s joined like Columbia House.
Oh yeah, BMG.
Yeah, like the 12 tapes for a penny. And then you fuck them over.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yes. I just didn't pay him, man.
Yeah.
I always paid him. I was.
Did you really?
You fucking pay for something. You got to commit. I remember
you had to buy I think it was six albums throughout the year or something. They gave you a year.
Yeah. They roped you in, though. It's like, buy 12 CDs for a penny, and then there would be, some kind of, like, mandatory
shit. You had to get, like, 6 albums for a regular price throughout the year. But the problem was, it was like, I think it was the very beginnings of Netflix, if you think about it.
Because, right.
Because you can get all these movies by paying, like, a monthly or like a yearly fee, but they never had the latest releases. It was always like back catalog shit and like, you know, weird shit like that, but it was never, if you wanted like something that just came out, you had to go to like the record store to get it and pay full price. But so then I bought all the Metallica tapes that way. I got, you know, Garage Band Revisited, Garage Days Revisited, Ride the Lightning, and Kill 'Em All. And I remember listening to Kill 'Em All first, and I was so like, it's so different. Yeah. And seeing, you know, that's when I realized, oh, they had a different bass player. I got into like, you know, the whole Cliff Burton thing. Yeah. And being young, I always thought from all their artwork that they were a little bit satanic. Yeah. You know, like Jump in the Fire. Yeah. With that demon. Yeah. All those crazy drawings. I was like, oh, are they satanic? So then listening to Kill 'Em All, I was like, they're into like Dungeons and Dragons and... You know, Phantom Lord. Yeah, weird shit like that.
Well, the sound of... Getting back to the Sound of Justice, yes. I remember listening to the cassette on a boombox, and the song... yeah, so in Black and where it goes... Every time you listen to that on the boombox, the heavy end, I would say the bass, but there was barely any bass. It was
the bass EQ on the guitars.
So it was every time it went into the the fucking whole boombox would shake and it would sound like totally. So that's what I remember hearing Black and listening to it now. It doesn't distort, but it brings me back to that boombox day where it was just like boom 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 boom. Yeah.
And you know what's crazy? I remember I went to Florida with my family, I don't know, the summer after maybe Justice came out, and I had brought my Walkman onto the plane, and all I had was the Justice tape, and I listened to it. The flight was like 3 hours or something, and I just listened to it over and over again. And at the time, I had thought Lars Ulrich was like the best drummer ever. Like I was like the shit.
Harvester of Sorrow.
Yeah, the shit that he was playing, all these weird patterns and especially in Justice, there was a lot of time signature changes. You know, I thought he was like really a technical drummer, but now you hear, like looking back, I mean, I'm a Lars Ulrich apologist. Mm-hmm. I think he's a great drummer.
I do too.
I think that he's a pocket drummer.
Yeah,
like he can play in the pocket. Yep. You know, but. You know, hearing all the stuff that these technical drummers can do now, like you know, all these bands like Dillinger Escape Plan and all that stuff, it's cool. But Lars Ulrich, I thought, was like a pioneer of sorts. You know, he I don't know, he just has a style. He has a feel.
It's not only about technique.
Yeah, he has a feel about him.
Yeah.
And that's what I really liked about Justice for All. Also, is like the drum patterns. You know, like you know, it was cool shit. You know,
Harvester of Sorrow, that might have been the first double bass I ever heard.
Really?
Yeah.
No, what about one?
True, but realizing that is true. One was probably the first. Yeah, one was definitely the first double bass, but just how he put melody into double bass, because it was like boom, like that whole double bass drum solo at the beginning. Just so cool. Just being exposed to that for the first time. Just with a band like Metallica.
He definitely had a signature. Like on that album, he was all about that double bass pedal. And I feel like that was... That album, I feel like, stood out the most in terms of his double bass work. You know, like all the other albums, you know, there was some double bass in like, I want to say like Fight Fire with Fire or something, but it was very steady, like, it was like that, like, whereas in Justice for All, it was like, it was tastefully done.
Yeah.
Like there were double bass segments that were like, that on purpose, like purposefully stood out in the song.
They were at their technical peak when they did Justice, which
Yeah.
is why they did the Black Album after they did Justice, because they
Yeah.
were so sick of being technical
Right,
after
right.
that. Like, how much further can you go?
Yeah, I mean, they were doing like
They were
11
fucking progressive.
11-minute songs.
Yeah, but Justice was kind of a progressive album too.
Yeah, it was great.
Yeah, so it doesn't surprise me how they would record a Black Album.
I mean, some of
after
those
that.
riffs, man. Talking about Harvester of Sorrow, like that fucking.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. And then it stops, so it's and then when they would do it live, they would pause for such a long. Like
yeah.
a great example of that is the show from Russia,
Right.
where they go and then they stop.
And then he hops a loogie.
Then he hocks a loogie, and then all of a sudden, all I've said there.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh my god.
Yeah, that was their prime, man. I thought the Black Album was like their prime. Like they were so tight,
But loose.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. As far as commercial success, it was their peak.
Oh yeah.
Because that album's just a monster. It's a juggernaut. It still sells like something like 5,000 copies a week. Sells. That not
Yeah,
people
that
downloading,
album.
people actually fucking buying it.
Everything about the album, the songwriting, the production, everything. It's just amazing.
Now, imagine if Bob Rock produced Kill 'Em All,
Yeah.
Lightning, Puppets, and Justice. They're already...
I think that's what gives them their charm, though.
It's the sign of the times.
Yeah, it's a sign of times. And did you ever hear on, like, YouTube, some people try to take Justice and turn it
Yes.
into, like, they try to produce it themselves.
Yeah.
Funny.
Or And Justice for Jason.
Yeah.
Where it has the bass stand. I hope, like, they just released or about to release the anniversary of Puppets, the whole box set.
Oh, I saw that, yeah.
So, well, you showed it to me.
Oh, right on.
So when Justice comes out, because the 30th anniversary is going to happen in 2018 or 19. I think it's 19.
Mm-hmm.
I hope they, just for fan service, remaster it and bring the bass up.
Yeah.
That would, like, an official And Justice for Jason, that would be awesome.
Yeah, that would be cool.
Yeah.
I remember buying a Gibson Explorer.
Yes.
Because of Hetfield. It was like a true Gibson Explorer.
Yeah.
And it was that same color, that cream.
The white.
Yeah, that weird off-white color he had.
Yeah.
I mean, he eventually had like white ones, and then he went to the black ones. But
Yeah.
the one, I think, the one I used to see in all the magazines was this cream one, and he had like the More Beer sticker on.
Yeah. Or Eat Fuck.
Yeah, Eat Fuck. And that's the guitar I bought.
Yeah.
I bought it for like $600.
Damn.
And it sounded awesome, man. It had that crunch to it, But I ended up selling it because it was a little cumbersome to play on stage. It was at the time, but now I would fucking love to have that fucking thing, man.
That, and I loved Hammett's Flying V's.
Oh,
Hammett's
yeah.
Flying V's looked like you could stab somebody with them.
Yeah.
Yeah. But Flying V's are kind of cumbersome in a way too. I've played them a little, but I don't know.
The thing I like about V's is that if you wanted to play all the way high up on the neck, you can. You can get all the way up, really high. Chris had remember he had the...
Yeah, oh yeah, that's how I played it,
Yeah,
like in junior
it's
high
hard
and
to
high
play sitting
school.
Down. You got to put it between your legs.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
But it just looks so cool.
Yeah. I think they all were playing V's in the beginning. Like even Hetfield was playing a V.
Yeah, Hetfield was playing a V, and Hammer was playing a V, and even Mustaine.
Mustaine was playing the V.
Yeah. Yep. Good stuff.
Yeah, that was good shit.
Yeah.
So what were some of the other topics that?
Okay, so it was first time hearing them, first time seeing them live. You go first.
I think it's the same for us.
Probably, right? We didn't sit, that was Nassau Coliseum 1991, the Black Album tour. We didn't sit together though.
Oh, right on.
I was with my brother, our friend Dan, and another friend. And we still see Dan every once in a while. I think I was with them. I don't even fucking remember. But holy shit.
That was amazing, man.
One of the best concerts I've ever seen because it's my favorite band, seeing them live for the first time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I wish I would have seen them live earlier.
I wanted to see them when they came around for Justice, but I wasn't allowed. And I think my parents thought it'd be too violent.
Yeah.
And they might have been right.
Yeah.
That's when Metallica was scary in 1989. Their image kind of softened a little for the Black Album, but
A little bit.
when Justice came out, they were still, especially as a 12-year-old, they were fucking frightening.
Yeah,
That's what was so cool about them.
Well, it was weird. It was like they were larger than life when we were kids.
Yeah.
And now they're fucking larger than life
As
for
adults,
the whole world.
yeah.
Like, they are the biggest heavy metal band ever.
Ever.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess you can kind of argue Black Sabbath. Black Sabbath were pioneers in metal, but
Yeah.
they were more classic rock based. Metallica was metal based.
Yeah.
Sabbath came about, as an like from a blues influence,
Right.
and listening to their songs, it's still heavy, but it had a doom quality to them.
Yeah.
As far as thrash and metal goes, I mean, Metallica started out like that. Definitely made some changes along the way, but
Yeah.
are still considered, just metal, pioneering metal band that's still fucking rock.
Metal.
Fucking rock. Why don't you get up off your assholes? Fucking rock. That's what Bill Ward in Ozzy's documentary Don't Blame Me, he said, and Ozzy, when we first played, would try to rile up the crowd and say, why don't you get up off your fucking assholes? Fucking rock.
Oh, man.
Yeah. But that show at the Coliseum, just the thrill.
Yeah, that was a
They
cool show.
opened. They didn't have an opening band. It was even with
Right.
Metallica. They opened with a documentary before the show.
Right.
And then all of a sudden,
They watched that video with the things crawling out of that chick's pussy, man.
and then you would see a camera backstage and would show the guys backstage before the concert started. They would say, "Hey man, how's everybody doing? Yeah."
Yeah.
And then they would come out. They opened with Sandman, and just fucking, and the way the stage was, the way the drum sets moved around.
That was the first time hearing, the Ecstasy of Gold and at the intro.
Yeah.
Like that is just killer, that Ecstasy of Gold
Yep.
intro,
And the first time seeing your favorite band live, and before that you would just see clips. You wouldn't rarely see it. But we watched Cliff 'Em All 1,000 times.
Yeah.
But to see them live in person, and the show was over 2 hours, I was fucking going crazy.
Yeah, when they were doing the dual drumming. Yeah.
That whole show.
Yeah.
Yep. And Hetfield was still a screamer back then.
Yeah, he wasn't really
didn't
singing.
blow his voice out, at least not yet. And so his voice still had that growl to it. He can't do it anymore.
Yeah,
he can't because he would kill his throat even more.
Yeah.
But those early days, Hetfield, he didn't take any voice lessons yet, and he would just scream and wear his voice out every night, and he was still able to do it every fucking night.
Yeah.
I don't know how.
Yeah, that show was tight.
Yep.
I can barely remember it.
And Newstead, from what I remember, sang all the Kill 'Em All songs on his own.
Oh, yeah, he did Seek and Destroy.
He did Seek and Destroy, Whiplash. Yeah, Newstead sang it, which was kind of cool. So Newstead was my bassist because I wasn't a fan of theirs when Cliff died. I was 10 or 11 when Cliff died. So when I got introduced to Metallica, Newstead was the bassist.
Yeah.
And which makes me wonder, kids getting into Metallica these days, Trujillo is their bassist.
Right.
So they'll go, oh yeah, what are you talking about? Roberts. They were not alive when Newstead was the bassist, so it's interesting.
It's kind of interesting.
Different point of view.
To think, that it's almost like me listening to the Beatles when I was a kid.
Yeah.
Now it's the same. It's like you have kids, 10 years old, 11, 12, listening to Metallica, just today's Metallica, just seeing what's there.
Yeah.
Well, actually, it's different because they're still around. They're still playing.
Yep.
But, it's like they're kind of like a classic...
They are.
Classic rock.
They are classic rock. They're legend. They're evergreen. It doesn't matter. It makes me wonder, it's always that what if Cliff was still alive. One, what he would look like, and two, what kind of music would he play? What kind of influence would he have on him? Because people say if Cliff was alive, they wouldn't sound like this, they wouldn't sound like that. I don't necessarily agree because it was always Hetfield and Ulrich's they were the last choice. But what Cliff would bring to them and what Hetfield and Ulrich would accept
Right. So would it, would the Black Album have ever happened?
I think it would, because I think they would go in that progressive direction. And Cliff was influenced by classic rock, too. Yeah. So I think they would all go to that, but maybe Cliff would add more of a progressive stance to it.
It's interesting on that Some Kind of Monster movie how Lars, when they were auditioning bass players, he said, now here's where it gets interesting. If Cliff came and auditioned for us right now, would he even be the right guy?
I don't know. I don't know. It makes you wonder. Like, had Hammett chosen that bunk and Hammett died instead, I don't know, I don't know what their sound would be like if they got a different guitarist.
Oh, yeah. Hammett's got a sound of his own.
He does, and he's great, but I don't know how much influence Hammett has overall with Metallica. He contributes good ideas, and he has a presence and a vibe.
Yeah.
But as far as influence, I don't know how he wasn't. I don't know if he was as strong an influence that Burton was.
Yeah, well, I think Hammett, Hetfield was like fire and Ulrich was like ice, and he was like lukewarm.
He was like lukewarm water. He kind of was.
He was. That's what I'm saying.
He had that hippie presence to him.
But he kept the peace. Yeah. He was like, look, come on, guys.
Yeah, come on, guys.
We have better things to do.
We have better things. What's that he said? He's like, things just resolve.
Yeah, things. Whether good or bad, they work out.
They just work out. Yeah. Oh my god! But he fucking wrote Sandman.
Yeah, he did.
That was his riff. Ulrich arranged the riff, but that was Hammett's fucking riff.
Yeah.
So of course he contributes valuably.
Yeah.
Very much so. But you can spend all day wondering what if.
But his solos, I mean, you can hum them.
Yeah.
I mean, they're such. I won't say now. Like for the new stuff, his solos are kind of like, I think he got sick of working out solos. But you listen to discount Kill 'Em All because
that was
he was trying to mimic Mustaine's shredding, but Ride the Lightning, Master of Puppets, and Justice for All, even the Black Album.
Oh yeah,
all of those solos are iconic.
Yeah, dude, that Unforgiven solo.
That's the best solo ever.
Yeah,
he just, he does his homework, man.
I do, man. I do my homework.
But the solos in Master of Puppets, and maybe a lot of the melodic solos that Hetfield wrote, those are iconic too.
Yeah.
You can sing those note for note. The solo for Fade to Black in the beginning. Yeah. You can sing that note for note.
It's the tone that he gets.
But even the melodies, the solo in the beginning of One, they're just so well thought out.
Yeah.
And the note choices are amazing.
Now, did he write those solos?
Yeah.
Did he write every solo?
No, I think. Okay. So if you listen to Master of Puppets, there's a lot of solos that Hetfield does, and you can tell the difference.
Right. Well, he's more a boxy player.
He's a bluesy, more of a bluesy pentatonics and stuff. Whereas Hammett's a lot of modes, and you can tell, but. I mean, Hammett, his solos they're so good, man. They're just, you could pick any song from Ride the Lightning to the Black Album, and you'd have that solo memorized in your head. Yeah. You can sing it.
I remember, I listened to there's two Metallica-only podcasts that I know of. One is called Metal Up Your Podcast, and the other one is called Alphabetallica. So Alphabetallica, they're going over, every single song alphabetically and letting people know what they think. Metal Up Your Podcast are two career musicians. They're session musicians, and they're roadies, guitar techs, and they have their own stuff. That podcast is really good.
Yeah.
And from a technical musician point of view, they keep saying how much they don't like the solos on Hardwired. And I didn't really notice that until they mentioned something. So now I'm listening to it going, huh.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying about I feel like after the Black Album, he got sick of spending the time on these solos.
Well, the solos on Load and Reload, I gotta listen to them again, but
they don't stand out as much, man. I couldn't tell you, I couldn't sing a solo, note for note from any of those albums after Black Album.
I can, but I have
That's
to
what I'm
think.
saying.
No, I have to think.
I know.
No, I have to look
You
at the
shouldn't have
tracks.
to think.
I'm trying to think, but nothing happens. But no, there are. But again, I can't think of them. I can't think of them offhand. There gotta be. There's some good solos in that. I can't. I can't think right now.
There are, but you can't pull them up as much as you can other stuff.
Right.
You know?
I mean, I love the Load and Reload.
I like
albums.
them too.
I love them.
I like them too.
But I'm more based off the Kill 'Em All to the Black Album, because that was just Metallica was so embedded in my life all the time during that period. As was Load and Reload. I listened to those albums a lot too.
I think they're great.
But I think it was the age I was especially when I listened to the first five albums. Well, junior high school. Load was college.
Yeah, Load was college.
So I guess I didn't have as much time to listen to music as I did when, Kill 'Em All, Ride the Lightning, Justice, Puppets, and the Black Album. I had more time. So because I had more time, those enveloped me more than Load and Reload. But as much as I love those albums, I really, really do. I want to do a separate podcast on those albums and just dissect them. Yeah. Because not too many people do. They don't... I'm more fascinated at the Load and Reload era than I am any other era, because that was when everybody seemed to be against them. Because they were doing so many different things. They looked different. They sounded different. They cut their hair. Yeah. But they were still genuine, though. So I always want to look back at that and find out what they were going through even more. Because I saw them on those tours, and those tours were awesome.
Really?
Hammond with the short hair, with the nail polish, with, trying out all these different influences.
Yeah.
That fascinates me more than... As much as I loved Hardwired, and Death Magnetic... I really like those albums, but it's kind of more of the same. It's like, okay, they're back to thrash, which is good.
Well, sometimes I think, are they trying...
But it's nothing new.
Are they trying too hard to get back to...
Yeah.
The older stuff?
Right.
They can't seem to do it.
It's
100%.
It's kind of fan service, those albums.
That's kind of what I feel too. I feel like, especially Death Magnetic, the songs got longer again.
Yeah, and thrashier. Yeah.
The only thing I don't like about that album...
The sound.
The sound of it. It sounds like they peaked the speakers.
Yes, it's distorted and clipped.
Yeah,
and
I don't like that.
The songs are good, though.
Yeah, the songs are good.
Hardwired's an excellent album. The sound is good. Hetfield hasn't sounded better in a long time.
Yeah.
And the music's good, but... What I like about the Black Album, Load and Reload, is that it gave us something unexpected.
Yeah.
Like when we first heard Unforgiven, and we heard the What I Felt.
Yeah,
I remember this vividly. We bought the album together.
Yeah.
The first day it came out, we went to the fucking Wiz.
The Wiz.
Me, you, and our friend Chris. We went to the Wiz, we bought the CDs, we went back to your house in your bedroom,
and we
listened to it, we heard Sandman, but we didn't hear any other song aside from Sandman until that moment. So the first time we heard Unforgiven, and as soon as they went to the mellow part, we all looked at each other, and we thought it was Jason Newsted singing it.
Yeah, because it was totally different timbre.
Yeah, totally different than what Hetfield sounded like. So we thought it was Newsted singing it. It's like, that can't be Hetfield.
Yeah.
There's no way. So being surprised at all those songs, and then, what album was Mama Said on? I think it was on Load.
Yeah, it was Load.
Hearing Mama Said, I heard it by myself because I was so lonely back then. But hearing Mama Said for the first time when that pedal steel came in, I was like, what the fuck?
No, that was a little weird.
I was like, whoa, but I was so happy at that because it was so different.
Yeah.
They threw us for a loop.
Yeah,
I like being thrown for a loop.
That's a good song.
You hear a Megadeth album with the exception of Risk, or you hear a Slayer album, but no album, all Slayer albums kind of sounded the same.
Yeah.
Diabolus, I guess, had like a nu metal tint to it. taint to it.
Not to digress, but I'm still think my favorite Slayer album is Seasons in the Abyss.
Oh yeah, that was a little different. It was more melodic and slower, I guess.
That album is crazy.
Fucking
good.
masterpiece.
Every song on that is fucking awesome.
Yeah, but it was a little more melodic than say like Rain and Blood. But but when you hear a Slayer, you hear a Megadeth. Anthrax, to a certain extent, Anthrax can get melodic, which I like.
Yeah.
Anthrax, that song "Breathing Lightning" is probably their best song ever, and that's on their latest album.
Oh yeah,
it's so good. It's so melodic. Belladonna sounds so good.
I really liked Worship.
Yeah,
that was a great one.
And then when they did "Sound of White Noise," that was just.
Man.
I love "Sound of White Noise."
I love that one too.
Yeah, because it's so different. But that's my point.
Yeah.
So when bands do that and throw you for a loop, but in a good way, it's not like the music's shitty.
Yeah.
It's not. The music's great, but it's different.
Yeah.
And it's something new and it's something exciting. It's not like, all right, cool. So Hardwired is excellent, but my criticism of Hardwired is that, okay, they're doing thrash, they're doing crunchy stuff. It's great.
Yeah.
And I love it, but show us something new here. It's genuine, though.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
It's nice. It's nice when a band takes chances.
I love it.
I hate to say this, but it reminds me. I kind of make the parallel with the Trump presidency, where people that's what I'm going to say is like people that try just to maintain their base and only do things to please their audience, their base fans. Yeah. I think that doesn't get you anywhere. Like you want to get new fans.
Yeah.
You want your band to, if you're just trying to please the same old fans,
right?
Those people are just gonna grow old with you, and that's it. You know, I think Metallica went the right way.
They did.
They introduced themselves to younger fans, older fans.
Yep.
Like they somehow opened the door, by taking those chances, and now they're the fucking biggest heavy metal band.
Now, if they genuinely want to sound the same, I'm fine with that because it's genuine. Like AC/DC has released the same album for the past 30 years. Yeah. Or 30, 40 years, But, it's genuine, I guess. But, but I don't listen to any of AC/DC's new stuff because I know it's the same shit.
That's what I'm saying.
If it's on, I'll be like, this is cool, but I won't buy it.
It's interesting. A lot of those bands, your AC/DC, your Iron Maiden, Judas Priest, like all those bands that were like larger than life from the beginning almost. They've always been big from when we were kids. They can get away with that shit. They somehow, I don't want to call them like a, not a novelty act.
They're evergreen. They're legend.
Yeah, it's like because when you go to see an Iron Maiden show, you're going for that experience of, hey, I've known Iron Maiden's been around for 20 plus years, and I've loved listening to their albums, but it's time for me to go experience an Iron Maiden show.
Yeah.
And when you go see them, you're going to see the same fucking show that they've done 20 years ago.
But they play new stuff, though. A lot of their...
it's all the same shit.
Yeah, well, their new stuff sounds like Iron Maiden.
It's those same progressions.
Yeah.
Three-part guitar harmonies.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah,
but
of course.
Wouldn't you love to see them go, like, ska? Or, like, do, like, well, I mean, maybe not that extreme, but, like, put some different elements in there,
That's the thing, though, is those bands... I don't know what it is, but they've somehow managed to make a career out of pleasing the same audience. Yeah. And for some bands, I guess it works.
Sure.
And I don't know what that formula is. I don't know why it works.
Well, because it's like a warm blanket. It's a place to go home to. It's like, okay, this is what it reminds me of when I was younger. Okay, it's still the same stuff. It still sounds good.
It's the voice. Eddie on my wall.
Yeah,
and
it's the
Hot
voice.
Topic, not Hot Topic. Spencer's.
Spencer.
Going and looking at the blacklight Eddie posters and shit. I get it.
Like someone like Robert Plant does not. You listen to him now. he does not sound like he did in 1969.
Right.
His voice has changed throughout the years.
Yeah.
In 69 he was bluesy. Then in the 70s he went for that wailing kind of
Well, if you want to analyze the Zeppelin thing, look at Zeppelin, look at the Beatles.
Yeah, they
Biggest
changed.
fans of all time.
Yeah.
They're the ones that nothing always.
They
everything
evolve.
changed. They
Yep.
evolved. Each album sounded
Yeah.
completely different.
Yeah. Yeah.
They tried all different styles.
Yeah.
They did reggae. They did
Yeah.
blues. They did heavy.
Absolutely.
And I mean I think that's a testament. Like, and Metallica is now going to be lumped in to that category
Yeah.
of the biggest bands of the world.
I hope that the album after Hardwired is something different. I hope they get the thrashiness out of them and just go do something. As much as I love those albums, it's time to shake shit up again.
But you know what else is? They're comfortable.
Yeah.
They've made a shit ton of money. I think when a band is starving, that's when the real shit, the real creative shit comes out.
Yeah. Well, right. I mean, they weren't starving when after Justice. I think they were pretty much set, and then they made that change because maybe they could.
I don't. They weren't starving, but they weren't like,
They weren't
millionaires.
I don't know.
They could afford homes now.
Right.
From what I've read, from biographies and books that they've put out, I think when they were hurting up until they got the Ozzy tour for Master of Puppets.
Yeah.
That's when they started to become like people started to, like, the mainstream started to notice them.
Yeah.
And then Justice, I think Justice might have been their first album to actually go platinum, maybe.
Okay.
Now all the albums are probably platinum.
Oh yeah, they got it.
But I think that was their first one that went like double or triple platinum. And that's when I think they started.
They were able to headline arenas on their own with Justice.
Yes.
With Puppets, they were still playing maybe like the 5,000, headlining like the 5,000, 6,000 seaters.
Yeah, and they had to jump on the tours.
Yeah,
with the bands,
but
they were playing with like Twisted Sister and.
Well, they did the Monsters of Rock with like White Lion and Van Halen and
and what was cool about Metallica was they embraced the overseas.
Oh yeah.
They toured a lot overseas.
Yeah.
And like they, I feel like they were embraced heavily over there before they were embraced in the States.
They probably had no choice because there was a lot of demand overseas. It still is with metal.
Yeah, and
overseas.
that's why I think Ulrich played a huge part in all that shit. Because he was familiar with that.
He was the ambassador. Yeah, he was their European ambassador. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
And it's just funny, there's something to be said about fate. There's no other four guys that could have created that.
Yeah.
Think about it. You know what I mean? Like, those four people had to meet at the right time, in the right place to create Metallica.
I don't think they would have gotten as far if Mustaine was still in the band.
No.
I mean, he would have destroyed them just because he was such a horrible addict.
Yeah, it's like...
But musically, Mustaine might have held them back, or at least creatively would have gotten to a lot of fights with them.
Yeah, I just... I'm not a big believer in that in the fate thing.
I'm not at all, but go ahead.
But when it comes to successful bands, you have to think to yourself, could this have been done with anyone else?
Yeah. Well, Hetfield and Ulrich definitely. Oh, Burton. I mean, yeah, just all those personalities.
Exactly.
Hetfield, Ulrich, Burton, Hammett. All their personalities together formed it. And even when Newsted was in the band, you saw with their documentaries all their personalities forming.
Yeah.
And then even with by the time Trujillo joined, after the whole Some Kind of Monster madness, I think they were all kind of set in their ways. And Trujillo, a veteran, big-time veteran, but Trujillo came in as kind of the new guy always.
Yeah.
Because when Newsted was the new guy, they were big, but they weren't gigantic. So when Newstead joined, they became gigantic.
Right.
But by the time Trujillo joined, they were legends.
Yeah.
So Trujillo, while he plays a creative role and he has that street cred because he's such a veteran and such a great musician, I don't think he has that gravitas in the band to really dictate where it goes.
Right. He doesn't have that, he's the new guy,
Yeah, he still is, yeah.
And I'm sure, though,
I'm sure he has a
they're
say.
mature enough now.
Yeah.
They're older where it's like, if you have ideas, just fucking do it.
Which he does, but it's a perfect example. Right when Trujillo joined the band, MTV inducted them as icons.
Right.
So they're on the stage as icons, but Trujillo wasn't there when they made that icon status.
He had the like you said.
Believe me,
he's well respected.
Fucking just suicidal tendencies alone.
Yeah.
And then, his work on Infectious Grooves. Then he played with Ozzy for so long. I saw him with Ozzy so many times. He was fucking great.
Yeah.
But just his work in Suicidal. I saw Suicidal open up for Metallica in '94. You were there, too.
Yeah, I was there.
Yeah, we got into a car accident on the way there. We didn't. Someone else was driving. and then, after the car accident, while we were driving to Jones Beach, the fucking hood popped up while we were driving. We were like, ha ha! Yeah, that was one of the best performances of Metallica I ever saw. They did Disposable Heroes that show.
That's right. It was weird to see them at Jones Beach, to be honest. Like I feel like Jones Beach isn't as big as like and the
even back then, before they expanded it, I think it wasn't as big.
Yeah, it was small. I felt like it was small. For them,
it was them,
cool.
Suicidal, and Danzig.
We got up pretty close. Too.
We did. We had great seats.
Yeah.
We had great seats.
That was probably the closest I'd ever been to watch Metallica.
I remember I had a band concert. I played saxophone in band. And there was a concert that night, and I skipped the concert. Now, if you skip the concert with this teacher, I think he would automatically fail you. But I said, I don't care. I'm going to Metallica. And the next day, I show up, and I'm wearing my Metallica shirt. It was I fucking love this shirt. A flying, flaming skull. I love it. And it went across the whole shirt. So I'm like, oh, my God, I'm dead. I'm dead. I'm dead. So this music teacher comes up to me and says, he looks at me and says, so how do you think you did last night? And I said, I think I performed pretty well. He's like, all right. Then there was another music teacher comes up to me. Meanwhile, both these music teachers are dead. The other music teacher comes up to me and looks at me with a shit-eating grin on his face and says, you went to the Metallica concert last night, didn't you? And I said, yeah. And he said, alluding to the other teacher, he said, this guy's ego's so big, he'll never believe that you skipped his concert to go see a Metallica concert.
Oh, yeah?
And my cousin, who was a music teacher, said, if I fucking found out you skipped my concert to go see Metallica, I would have failed you on the spot. I'm like, I don't care. Like, looking back on it, I try to live my life now as a 40-year-old. Not 4-year-old, 40-year-old. On my deathbed, what would I think? So on my deathbed, do I go back looking, I'm so glad I played that band concert and missed Metallica, or I'm so glad I saw one of the best performances of my favorite band ever do one of my favorite Metallica songs that they rarely do? On my deathbed, dude, I'm so fucking glad I skipped that fucking concert, the band concert. Yeah. I don't even like playing the saxophone anymore. I fucking hate it. I get chills.
I wish I can go back to my, travel in time back, to myself as a kid and be like, look, like a lot of these choices you make, like you make, have fun.
Yeah.
Like do things that you want to do. Don't
I know.
Fucking,
there's too many times
you don't think about that when you're a kid, man.
Nope.
And that's the whole, that's life, man.
Yeah.
That's it right there.
Like I played football and lacrosse for 3 years, and I never wanted to do it.
Yeah.
And I just wish I would have stopped, but I didn't.
Yeah.
Those are such watershed moments in my life. Like, maybe I would have played in a band, like guitar in a band, if I wasn't playing football and lacrosse. Who knows? Maybe I would have studied music more. I would have... Totally. Yeah. Instead, I was playing something I didn't want to play.
When you're a kid...
You don't know.
When you're a kid, you just you want to hang out with your friends. You want to you get stuck in the peer pressure thing.
Yeah.
Where it's like everyone else does this, so you go to the mall and hang
Yeah.
out with them too, you know?
And I was afraid of being seen as a quitter. So if I quit sports, people would be like, oh, that's the guy who quit, you know? Or I would have been afraid that my dad would be like, well, why are you quitting? Meanwhile, my dad probably would have been like, all right, do what you want to do.
Yeah.
But, you know, it was just that expectation of that. But I was so miserable playing sports. I was always so nervous.
And that's another thing with Metallica or bands like Metallica is I think when, you know, I grew up in a, you know, upper middle class. Well, no, I would say like middle class, you know,
Middle to upper middle class suburban. Yeah, the upper class was head of the harbor.
Yeah.
That was where the mansions were. We grew up in middle to upper middle class. I was upper middle class, but my neighborhood was middle to upper middle class.
Right.
Totally.
So I think like a lot of bands that like Metallica that become huge, they, you know, they grew up in like, you know, broken homes and things like that. That, you know, my parents are still happily married.
Yeah,
you know,
mine too. Shit.
I had a, you know, I grew up in I had a normal life, you know, and I think, you know, like bands like Metallica who, you know, go through a lot of shitty stuff in their life early on in their life, they feel that they have nothing to lose.
Well,
You know what I
Hetfield
mean?
especially.
Yeah, so like they're more apt to taking a lot of chances and a lot of risks because there's nothing at home.
Yeah.
You know, and you know.
See, with Ulrich though, Ulrich was the opposite.
Yeah, he had a nice...
Ulrich had everything. He didn't want for anything. He grew up rich, but he grew up exposed. His father exposed him to music, jazz.
His dad was super liberal.
Yeah.
He, you know, there's no structure.
No.
Just I mean, he used to follow Motorhead around when he was a kid. You know.
Yeah. So it's interesting. So you combine the world of Hetfield, broken home, mother dying, dropping out of school, getting pulled out of class because he was a Christian Scientist, feeling alienated. But you combine him with Ulrich, who is this snotty rich kid who just loved music and had the nerve and the guts to go to Motorhead and go, hey, can I hang out with you guys? To follow bands around, to get in with them at such a young age.
That's true, yeah, I never thought about that.
So you combine the drive of Ulrich with the innate musical talent of Hetfield, and then with the talent that Ulrich ended up developing, that's Metallica.
Yeah.
And then you put in the technicality of Hammett. And, you know, Hammett didn't come from the best childhood either. I think he was molested as a kid.
Really?
I think so. I think he comes from abuse. Hetfield, you know, Mustaine in the early days had shitty childhoods, and you know, Burton I think was raised okay. Burton was kind of like a woodsy, you know.
Well, his parents,
folksy.
From what I read, his parents were just like cool about it. They were just like
very supportive.
very supportive. Encouraged him.
Yeah, just a musical genius. Very, very much technical, but had emotion when he played.
Yeah.
Just a very, very competent, very excellent musician.
And that's like, I started playing guitar when I was like 15, I think.
No, he was younger than that.
Younger than that?
No, you
like
were
13?
You were 7th grade.
What are you? Oh yeah.
13. Yeah, you
13.
started playing. Why do I know this more than you?
Dude,
you started playing in 7th grade.
Burnout.
You fucking burnout.
But you know, my parents, you know, as much as I love my parents to death, but they always were like, make sure you have a backup plan, and you know,
make sure you have a backup plan.
They were supportive, but it wasn't like, you know what, we'd be totally okay if you just like didn't go to high school and
you
know, like fucking, you know, to try to tour in a band.
Yeah.
Where I think if I had more of a validation of like, it's okay, like you can really try to do this music thing, and you should do it 100%.
Yeah,
I think I would have not been as scared to jump off the cliff. You know what I mean?
The Cliff Burton.
Yeah.
There is speaking as a non-parent, there is a balance though, I think, where it's like, listen, pursue your dreams, go for it, go 100%, but have a viable backup plan in case, because there are more chances than not you're not going to make it. But
I feel like if you don't have a backup plan, you try a lot harder.
But if you
Because you don't have that plan.
if you don't have a backup plan, though, and then you get sick of the life and don't want to do it anymore,
Right.
then you have backup to nothing. That was me with acting.
Right.
I didn't have a backup plan. I mean, I graduated with a business degree, but that proved to be nothing. So when I stopped acting, I was into the music business.
Right.
But by the time I stopped acting, the music business was dead. So I went to nothing. And I'm still fucking suffering from that now. Because there was a time where it was like I still wanted to act, but I didn't have the money coming in. So I didn't want to go more broke than I was. I didn't want to be in debt, but I didn't want to act anymore. I was so burned out from acting. It's like, well, what the fuck do I do now? But had I still want to act. I'm still more enthusiastic about it than ever. It's just, I needed a break from it. But I know people, and I heard stories of people who are still into acting with no backup plan, and they're like career extras because that's the only way they can make money.
Yeah.
They're in the union, they make good money as an extra, but they're fucking extras because they can't afford to put on their own play. They can't afford to act in independent film because there's no money there. So they are scraping by doing these survival jobs, and they're fucking miserable.
Yeah.
So what happens if you have no backup plan, but your dream doesn't work, and now you have to make money?
Yeah, no, I get it.
Yeah.
I totally get it. It's just like, it's almost like that survival mode of, if all you know is, playing in a band and touring, let's say you have a backup plan, right? You can be at some point when you get shot down 5 times.
Right.
You're like, oh, well, I got my backup plan, so I'm
Sure,
just going to go
sure.
to my backup plan. Whereas if you didn't have that backup plan,
Yeah.
keep fucking trying.
Right.
And that's how these bands make it.
Sure.
There's bands that have been around trying for so long, and then one day they just fucking hit, man,
Right.
because they kept going.
Yeah. But then there are also stories of bands keep fucking trying, and they're 50 years old,
course.
and they work, they work the
They're like
graveyard
gas
shift
station.
as a janitor
Right.
because they wanted... Anvil, yeah.
But
yeah,
but look, they ended up making it because
Right, but-
someone was like, look at this band that everyone loved.
But if you look at Anvil now, I don't know how much money they make on the road now.
Right.
Maybe they had a nice bump, but then really, how much in debt are they?
But but also think about it like this too. The people like Anvil, they love it so much that they don't give a shit about the janitor job. They don't give a shit that they're 50 or 60 years old. They just love it, man.
But I wonder, I'm not... A job as a janitor is a very admirable job. You're paying your way, you're making money, but it's not what you want to do. I don't think there's any janitor that says, it's my dream to be a janitor.
Yeah, I also think it comes down to, we're totally off topic, but I think it also comes down to social pressures, man. There's people people measure success, in different ways.
Yeah. People measure success if you're 50 years old and not living with your parents because you can't afford your own place.
Yeah, but I think I think if you can get out of the whole framework of if you have a job and you live, you have a family and you have kids and you have 2 cars in the garage and blah blah blah, this and that's success. And I think that gets rammed down people's throats at an early age just by going to school, just by hey, I'm supposed to go to high school, then I have to go to college, then I have to get a job, then I'm going to have married 2.5 kids, I'm going to be miserable.
Yeah.
But I'm successful.
Right.
So what is the point? I think success in itself is just be happy.
Yeah.
If you're happy and healthy, that's success.
Sure. Sure.
And I think that when it comes to, you look at these guys, like Anvil, hey man, they're just happy to fucking be playing music and, recording. And yeah, they were trying to make it and all this stuff, but that's part of it. That's what makes them that's what makes them happy.
Yeah.
And, if the guy has to work a janitorial job, just so that he can make music for the rest of his life and be happy. I think that's success.
Yeah. There's a balance, though, because you want enough time to perfect your art and do your art. But at the same time, if you're working a job, all your energy goes into that job, and then you're tired when you get home.
Right.
So there's a balance, I think. That's why I think it's good. You really have to go totally 100% out there. Do what you want to do, but at the same time, you want to be able to afford to do it without being so poor that you can't afford food.
Right.
So it's that balance, that struggle is tough, and not too many people make it. It's such a small percentage of people in the music industry, the acting industry.
Well, it's also, you have to have the raw talent.
Yeah, that too. Yeah, but it's like, you look at the Anvil, but what about like the never Anvils?
Right.
What about the people who have just the same drive as Anvil but never got to be?
Them,
yeah, I know so many filmmakers like that are so talented, and they maybe released some stuff that was distributed worldwide, but never got the attention, and they're working regular jobs or they're in debt. At least they're trying.
You only live once. Man.
Yeah, I know.
The fact that you're able to create art, that something like a movie.
Yeah.
If you can accomplish a film or an album
or a podcast
or something, I love reading like old Mike Patton interviews because there's the argument of what is art and what makes art valid or whatever. And hey, if you are a creative person and you create, when you write a song or you make a movie or you paint a painting, that came from you.
Yeah.
And there's nothing else like that in the world.
True.
It's completely original.
Yep.
And just the fact that you're able to do that, I think, should be comforting enough to someone in terms of, look, there are people that can't do this stuff.
Yeah.
They don't have it in them.
Mm-hmm.
They don't know how to be creative. Or maybe they are creative, they just don't have an outlet for it.
Right.
The fact that you can have an outlet, multiple outlets, people that draw, that are good artists as well as musicians, or, they can do multiple things.
I think every human being is creative. It's just the level of creativity and the quality of that creation, but every human being is. But then it's also the desire to do it, or they may have the desire to do it, but there's something blocking them. There's something blocking them from releasing that movie or making that movie or playing that music.
It could be like
fear.
What?
It could be fear.
Fear.
Yeah.
I think a lot of it, you're right. I think a lot of it is fear. It's because that's how we're brought up. We're brought up, hey, if you're not a doctor or a lawyer, or making a lot of money, you're fucked, And then people kind of are, like, oh shit, like, all right, I'm gonna have to, like, go to school and get myself in tons of debt, and if you're going to get yourself in debt, why not do it with something that you want to do?
I know.
That makes you happy.
But then just the idea of being in debt's scary,
It is scary. But I think of it like this, man, and maybe this is a very morbid way to think of it. Fucking when you die, man, all that goes away.
Can't take it with you.
Yeah, it's,
unless you pass the debt off to your children.
Family,
yeah, that would suck.
Yeah, but, all these problems, it's like they mean nothing when you're dead, So you might as well...
Now that we're dead, my dear!
Way to tie it back.
Yeah, thank you. So about Metallica.
Yeah. You could actually probably split this up into two separate...
No, dude, we're at an hour.
Right on.
Yeah. So
you could probably split it up. The first half is Metallica, and the second half is like philosophical.
I can do that, or maybe I'll release the whole thing. I don't care. I'll do what I want, man.
Metallica and philosophy.
Yes, Metallica, Fletalica. Yes. All right. Well, on that note, as we're hitting the hour, it's not that I stop in an hour, but I think we're good. I think we've talked about everything we want to talk about. So I'm gonna go home and do laundry. And Steve's gonna hit the gym, man. So, Steve, where could every time I do this, we did the Baby Driver podcast, and there's my favorite part of the podcast is, Steve, where can we find you? What do you want to say? And your reaction was like, it was like I don't.
I don't know where you can find me.
What your Twitter is like inactive, right? And it's locked. Okay,
is it locked? What does that mean?
It means that you have to accept people if they want to follow you. Yeah, it's not public.
I haven't used Twitter in over.
I will plug Tofu Mofo again. So Steve has a band, or Steve's project. It's a solo project. It's called Tofu Mofo. It's one word: TOFUMOFO, and it's a concept album about a person who hates paying taxes, who hates his job, and hates his commute. So that's what the album's about. I do have an issue with the taxes, because I don't mind paying taxes. I just want them to go to the right things. I don't want them to go to wars, man. Fuckers. You know, I want them to help people. God damn it. I want health care. I want universal health care. Anyway.
That's for a whole other
podcast. But just Google Tofu Mofo, and the Bandcamp page will probably come up, and it's the whole album. It's called Songs in the Key of Fuck You, and it's awesome. I'm not just saying this because he's one of my best friends, and I've known him since we were kids. It's a great album, and I listen to it all the time. It's really good.
I wrote it on an iPhone.
He wrote it on an iPhone, and one of these days we'll get together and play it live. We'll jam. I'll play bass. But, and you can find me, I'm Mike Lane on Twitter. It's Mike Lane Act, MikeLaneAct, or on Facebook, facebook.com/Mike Lane Actor. And and you can email me at MikeLaneAct@yahoo.com, and subscribe, like, share this podcast on iTunes, Podbean, Stitcher. Just type in music, movies, and more, and you'll find it. But you found me already, considering you're listening to this, like all three of you.
If they've gotten that far.
They're probably not. They've probably tuned out after 20 minutes. We're just entertaining ourselves.
Totally.
All right. Well, I'm going to go entertain myself at the fucking laundromat. Anyway.
You're going to pleasure yourself at the laundromat?
Yes. All right. Have a good one, everyone. Bye.